Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Nights on the Sofa. Hope you're all still enjoying the lovely weather we're having and you're all well, not missing the football too much. Couple of things from me before we get on tonight's guest. So, Supermarine tickets for the friendly on the 5th of July are now on sale. So if you go to the Supermarine website, you'll see where you can get your tickets for that one. And also, you may well have seen that last season we changed our matchday draw second prize option to a signed shirt instead of 5% of the takings. We've had a bit of a discussion on this, and we sent out a survey to see what would people like us to do, either revert back to cash or keep the signed shirts. It was very, very slightly higher for the money. So we will be going with the cash, but we will also have a couple of signed shirts available. So if people do wish to have a signed shirt instead of the cash, then we can accommodate that as well. But we will only have a limited amount. But that's what we're going to do. So we'll be reverting back to the cash from next season. Okay, let's bring Vic on.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Morgan. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very well. Beautiful sunny weather in Devon tonight, I have to say. I'm sure it is in Swindon as well, but a magnificent spell of weather we're having. I know not everybody enjoys this hot weather, so I do get that. So I just, but it is lovely at the moment, and we should make the most of it. I'm sure it'll change. Just one thing I want to mention. Yes. As I said last week, the Swindon Town Football Club Museum are having an official launch on Thursday, the 15th of June at 7 o'clock. Now, if you are interested in going to this launch, tickets are sort of limited. So what we'd like you to do, if you'd like to help out in any way too, send an email to secretary@stfcmuseum.org. secretary@stfcmuseum.org. There are limited spaces available, and there we are. It's on the bottom of the screen. So hopefully, if you want to go there, you can put some information in and say what you'd like to do for the museum. It's an exciting project. We're very much looking forward to getting it underway. Lots of memorabilia already we're coming across, and some extraordinary stories. So we're really looking forward to getting this off the ground. 15th of June, that email address at the bottom of the screen, secretary@stfcmuseum.org.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so tonight we have the privilege of having Brian Howard on with us, and here he comes. Good afternoon, Mr. Howard, or good evening.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, it's the hot weather. I don't realise how sunny it is, and it's still evening time. But I'm definitely one that I'm not complaining about the weather for sure.
Yeah,
certainly not.
Lovely.
Not. Okay, so if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. We will get through as many as we can, and I will see you later.
Chris, thanks very much indeed. Brian, thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. It's a great privilege to talk to you. You don't look any different from your playing days. I don't know how you've done that, but congratulations on that.
Healthy living.
Absolutely. You might recognise a couple of shirts behind me. Those are the similar shirts you would have worn from your time at Swindon Town, which we'll get to, of course, in greater detail in a moment. But first of all, can I ask you how you are? Because you've recently had an operation. Tell us a little bit about that, if you will.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm recovering. I had it's called a semi-hip replacement. It's called the Birmingham hip resurfacing, which Andy Murray made famous. He was kind of a pioneer for it, for the sports people that do it. It's now really common for ex-sportsmen that are often changing direction and things like that. More and more ex-footballers, tennis players, people like that are having this operation probably earlier than what they should do in life. And I actually, I failed a few medicals at the end of my career. That's why I finished playing at 33. Wanted to try and stay as healthy as possible. And over the last year, it's just given up on me. So I bit the bullet and had it done while I'm hopefully young enough and fit enough to recover quickly. And I'm 11 days since the op now. So I'm hobbling around on crutches, enjoying the sunshine in the garden and on the mend. Thank you.
Excellent. A good excuse not to do much in the hot weather, I guess, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah, you say that. It's obviously we'll probably come on to it. What I do now is start the transfer window. So I've been on the phone from well, 7:45 this morning, right the way through to come off a Zoom just before we come on here. So it's been extremely busy, but at least I've the pleasures of sitting in the garden and making calls.
Lovely. Well, we'll get onto that a little bit later on. Let's go right back to the beginning then. And your youth career started at Southampton. How did football start for you? When did it first rear its head and sort of give you a knowledge that you wanted to play football?
Just loved it from a young age. Come from a massive footballing family. One of my younger cousins now, Matt Target, is playing for Newcastle. And lots of my older cousins, my dad, my uncles, all played, pretty semi-professional. A lot of them made money from the game. It's a Scottish family, so my dad and 12 brothers and sisters have all got kids, and moved down from Glasgow to Southampton. So brought up in a football mad family. A lot of older cousins, so me and my younger brother, and would always want to go and play with the older lot, and they're always playing football. So just from a very young age, as soon as I could kick a ball, it was all I ever wanted to do, and just loved it.
It's interesting you mentioned the Scottish connection, because you could have played for Scotland, although you'd already played for England. And actually, the fact that you played for England meant that you couldn't play for Scotland. Is that right?
Yeah, obviously the rules are different now. You've got to play in an official fixture for the first team. But back then, if you had played in an official tournament, which they classed the under 16 Euros, under 18 Euros, and under 20 qualifiers as official games, I wasn't allowed to switch allegiances. And it was interesting actually, because I should have played in the under 20 World Cup, and it was just after. I think there was problems with after the 9/11 and stuff like that, and then they changed the tournament to Dubai, and it was in the middle of the season. So if I had still been at Southampton in the youth side, so I'd have been able to play. But by that time, I was at Swindon and just broke into Kingy's first team, and he said, "Well, if you go, son, you might not get your place back." And I ended up not going and staying to play at Swindon, and that was the first year in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll get onto those playoffs, which I mentioned to you just now about one of the most painful nights I can ever remember. But we'll get onto that in a minute. I'm sure it wasn't too great for you either. So Southampton, your time comes to an end, and Chelsea are interested, aren't they? But this is kind of like the start of the Abramovich era. And what was on offer for you then? I mean, you'd not broken into the Southampton first team. How did that feel, and what made that decision for you clear to go to Swindon rather than Chelsea?
Yeah, I think it's different now. Obviously, I work with young players now, and they have the under 23s. Back when I was coming through, it was the old reserve team. And I broke into the reserve team pretty young at Saints, 17, 18. Ended up being captain. But I wanted to play first team football. And that Saints that year, I think they got to the FA Cup final, finished 7th in the Premier League. And Gordon Strachan said, "Look, I can't see you breaking in my team. There's another year. If you want to play in the reserves, go on loan. But I think you need to go and further your career. And we'll be sensible. We won't ask for fees for you. We'll let you go." A friend of mine had left Southampton at 15 and went to Chelsea. He phoned me up and said, "I heard you can leave. The Chelsea guys have been come in." So I went to Chelsea for 3-4 months at the end of the season. Played in their reserve team, and at the time they said it was Ken Bates. So they were struggling for money. Wanted to get homegrown talent. Obviously, I'd played for England, played at Saints, had a good pedigree, and said, "Look, you'll get." I think it was Worthington Cup back then. Worthington Cup games, you'll be in and around the first team. I was training with the first team. I was lucky to train with the likes of Zola, Hasselbank, John Terry, Broken, Lampard. So incredible experience. And then went away actually for the England under 22 London tournament, which was the provisional before the World Cup. And while I was there for the 2 weeks, Abramovich takeover had come. They said Veron, Crespo, Joe Cole, all these names were signing. And I remember sitting in France thinking, wow, if I couldn't get in a Saints team, I've got no chance of getting in front of here. So I got back, spoke to my agent at the time, the same agent as Super Sam, as Sam Parkin, who was doing the permanent deal over from Chelsea for him. And he said, "Well, look, spoke to the Swindon guys, they really like you. That's an hour from home. Sam's signing, they're going to try and get promoted this year. Why don't you go in?" So I went in, trained for 2 days, played in I think 45 minutes game at the old training ground. And Kingy then sat me down with on the park bench from my agent, pulled out his pack of fags, Benson and Edges, wrote down the numbers of what he was going to offer me on there, and said, "There's your deal, son. Do you want to play first team football or not?" And I said, "Yeah, look, I'm not about the money. It was less than what I could have got at Chelsea, but I wanted to go and play football," and felt part of the group. Really enjoyed spending the first few days with the boys. There's a little car school, Sammy Igo, and the boys coming up from down south. So, just a fantastic couple of years in my life to break into the first team.
Yeah, it was a fabulous team to watch as well that you were beginning to join. And every time you hear a story about Andy King, slightly different, I think, is the two words I'd use. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, different. I remember bringing my dad in, who was a Glaswegian, grew up in the '60s in Glasgow, and he came in the room, and him and Kingy just seal it off before I signed my contract. And my dad in the car and went, "Yeah, he's all right for you, son." He said, "He'll go kick up the backside when you need it, but he'll put his arm around you when you need it." He said, "Yeah, he's good for you." So I'll always remember that.
Yeah, your debut was against Sheffield Wednesday, I think, on the opening day of the season, a 3-2 defeat for the Town. But it was a strange day, if I remember rightly, because that was the day of Jimmy Davis's news breaking that he sadly lost him in a car crash. It was an odd day for you, I guess.
Yeah, I knew Jimmy from he was a year older than me in the England youth team. So I'd stepped up a couple of times and played a year above. So played with him a couple of times. Wasn't overly close, but played with him. But I remember Steve Robinson at the time coming in tears, and you're hearing different things in the dressing room. Again, I'm getting prepared for my league debut against Sheffield Wednesday, who just come down, and I think it was a sellout at the county ground, and it was just a real somber, eerie experience really before the game. And I remember a couple of lads said, "Look, boys, let's get out there, let's do this for Jimmy." Unfortunately, I don't think we got the win on the day, but it was, we fought against a very strong Wednesday team. I think went up that year. And I think from that start of the season, just like little moments like that really pulled us all together as a group, and that's why we achieved reaching the playoffs. And we're unfortunate not to meet the dream and go up.
How difficult is that though when you've had a piece of news like that before the game? Because at the end of the day, fans, I guess fans felt the same, but you have to go out and play football, don't you? And hey, things are bigger than life and football, aren't they? From time to time, you have to raise your game for that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very brought up, like I said, I spoke about my family before, that, football's more than a game. And I still, go to that now. But when you get older and you look at life in general and, your families and you lose people in your family, you do realise that, there is more to 90 minutes on a football pitch. When you're out there for the 90 minutes, it doesn't ever feel like that, and you got to treat it like that. But, family does come first. But yeah, it was a sad moment, very sad moment for everyone. But like I said, it was hopefully we went on that season and did him proud and put in the effort in the shirt.
You certainly did. I mean, it was a fabulous team to watch. You mentioned Sammy Igoe, people like that. But I always remember with you, your great strength was crossing a football, which, talk about the art of crossing a football, because it seems to me we kind of lost that. Not even at third division level, but at the top level. The art of crossing a football seems to have disappeared somehow.
Yeah, I have this all the time. I speak to my business partner about young players, and I see them get to the byline and they're smashing it across as hard as they can, and they're whipping balls in like low and hard, and people say I'm putting it in with pace. I'm like, how's a striker meant to get on the end of that? I mean, I was very lucky that season. I had probably the two best strikers in the league, in Super Sam and Tommy Mooney. It was pretty easy. I just had to put it in an area and let them attack it, give them something to fight for. And I know if they got on the end of it, 9 times out of 10, it would end up in the back of the net.
Yeah, it sounds easy, but when you watch football these days, it doesn't appear to be easy. So what are coaches doing wrong, or is it a lack of natural ability to do that? How would you sum that up?
I don't know. I done mine on a personal effect, and obviously when I came through, it was the Beckham era. So Beckham was the player you looked to. Everyone wanted to be like Beckham. So I would sit and study the way Beckham crossed the football. And yeah, he whipped balls in there, but he'd always put in an area of quality that you could actually get on the end of. So I very much went and worked on that on my own. I was lucky that even when I was at Swindon, I still lived at home with mum and dad, and I had a younger brother and mates that I'd still, in the off season, and the park on the corner, I'd practice. I'd get my brother in the middle of the goal, and I'd say, look, I'm going to whip 10 balls in. You just get on the end of them, diving headers, 3 goals, volley, 4 goals, whatever. So it was just something I practiced on my own, something that I wanted to add to my repertoire. I mean, I was never ever the quickest. It's something that was always said to me when I was younger, you're never ever going to be that athletic type and run away from people. So you need to have the skill to get half a yard, and then you need to be able to deliver a quality ball. So something that I took away and worked on my own.
Certainly worked. I mean, Parkin and Mooney, I mean, you talk of great partnerships. We've had Mason, Rowland and people like that over the years. My goodness, that was a partnership, wasn't it? Parkin and Mooney. I mean, 20-odd goals each in a season.
Yeah, one probably as a partnership, the best I played with, because obviously then I came then started going through the levels and the different, when it changed to one up front and a number 10. So if you say like the old school 4-4-2 as a front two, probably the best I play with. Both could link play, both could go in behind, both could get goals. And I said my assists that year were pretty high for a debut season. Like stat based now, I talk about a lot. Everything's so data and stat driven. You look back then and go, wow, I would have probably got on the modern way people recruit. I would have probably got a big move just off the back that I'd got 10 plus assists in my debut season. But a lot of that was down to them two finishing. But we knew it. And Sammy on the right, me on the left. Like I said, we used to travel up for an hour every day together. And we used to talk about it and say that all we got to do is get in the ball in the box, demand it off the fullback, get half a yard. We're both good enough to get half a yard, put it in the box, and the boys will score.
How exciting was it to play in that team?
I loved it. It just the whole experience. It was what I've been craving for the last couple of years. Obviously, playing reserve team football doesn't really. You want to win, but it doesn't mean the same. 3 points on a Saturday. The fans, I absolutely loved it. And you had a great mixture. Obviously, Sam Parkin and Tommy spoke about. Tommy, great experience pro. Sam, brilliant lad. Sammy Igo, great experience pro. You had the likes of AD Vivash, Alan Reeves, Matty Hewlett, Stephen McGranty. It's just such a great bunch of guys that have all had different careers. And I used to just, thrive off asking them all different questions about the different journeys and learning all the time. We had brilliant loans. I think that was one of Kingy's strengths. We always dipped into the loan market really well. I remember one time we had an Eddie Howe and Dion Burton, both on loan from Portsmouth. So they were in our car school and we used to share a car. And so I was in the car with Sammy Igo, Dion Burton, Eddie Howe. And it sounds like a joke because it's the three opposite personalities you can think of, but I thrived off it.
I wonder what Eddie Howe's doing now. Any idea?
He's doing right. Well, I said I mentioned my cousin earlier, Matty Target. So he's now his manager up there. So I've got Matty's wedding next week, and but he said Eddie's great. So he's a brilliant coach, and I knew back then he just studied the game. Like Dion and Sammy, you could talk about different things, but Eddie was just football.
Well, he's done a phenomenal job both at Bournemouth and, of course, at Newcastle too.
Yeah.
So when did you first sort of realise that team had something special? I mean, I've always thought it's one of the Swindon teams that should have gone up. Over the years, I've watched Town. There are obvious teams that should have gone up. The one that got to the League Cup semi-final in the late 70s, that should have gone up. What was it so special about that team, and why do you think it didn't make it automatically?
Automatically, maybe just didn't have that squad strength in depth that maybe the big hitters had. Obviously, the budget was low. I think everyone knows the story. We were getting paid by cheque. We were getting paid late. But that added to our team bonding. That added to everything. And again, we'll talk about King again. He was great at bringing us all together. Would encourage us to do a lot together off the pitch. And they would take us to races and do things. But we do everything together. So you go out on that pitch and you run and you fight for your teammate. But we had a great blend, like I said, just all those different characters, but they fit. And everyone added their own different personality and their own bit of quality on the pitch, but maybe just lacked that extra bits that the top boys could go and afford to maybe challenge top two. But I definitely think we were good enough to go up for the playoffs, and I think we could have kicked on again for sure. I think if we had beat Brighton, which we should have done, we would have gone on and won it and gone up.
Yeah, I did myself some mental damage earlier by watching that again, and I shouldn't have done really because it's just a dreadful night. But what games stand out in your head from that season? Which are the ones that you particularly enjoyed?
I love Stockport away. We were 3-0 up in about 10 minutes. I think I got definitely one assist for Moon's opener. I managed to chip the goalie from about 25 yards. And I think that was when I really felt that I'd broken in and I was there to stay and I was part of it. And then they actually had a bit of a comeback near the end, and it turned it a bit nervy than what it should have been. So that game always sticks in. I remember the game against Hartlepool last game of the season where we both just needed a draw. I think Sammy Igo put us 1-0 up, and then we did concede, and it was like to them, whoa, don't score another, we won't score another, calm down, which again was a funny experience, actually trying not to win a game and making sure you don't lose a game in the last 10 minutes was definitely an experience.
Yeah, that Sammy. When watching it, it seemed that Sammy Igo goal was a bit against the plan.
Yeah.
And it must be odd because you both know. I mean, the thing is, obviously, you want to beat the opposition, but you know that the opposition have a chance of getting in the playoffs too. So, It's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was a tough one, and I think a few of their boys in Sammy scored like, whoa, 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 what were you doing? That's no, we're trying not to score, and you just gone and scored. So yeah, it worked out. It worked out well, and like I said, we got through, and just unfortunately couldn't get over the line down there. And the way, I think the most painful thing was the way that we did lose it. I mean, for me personally, Kingy obviously took me off right at the end to, I think, obviously make up substitutions, waste time, and then to concede, and there was nothing I could do about it. And I was one of the 5 penalty takers. You know, oh, right, I've got no control of this, and I felt like you did, sat watching it. You know, as a fan, going, I've got no control, and we've just lost the game we should have won. Should have been booking our tickets to Wembley.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean says, great player, Brian. Seeing you on here brings back a bad memory, though. Myself and a mate from London were chatting our plans for the playoff final. In that damn last gasp goal from Brighton. And Mark says, Sean and I were sat in a very small bar in Menorca with one other bloke who was a Brighton fan.
Oh, apologies. If I could rewind time, I'd try and do a bit more.
Yeah, let's take us through that night, because the first leg we'll gloss over a little bit. It was a kind of non-event, really, wasn't it? But the second leg, it was a foul night. We got absolutely soaked. You got absolutely soaked. It was at that strange Withdean Stadium.
Yeah.
Things started to go really well for the town. Tommy Mooney hit the bar in the first leg, hit the bar in the second leg. Of course, if either of those go in, it's, you know, ifs and buts are small things, aren't they? But they're big things in the great scheme of things. How was it as a player in that game? How do you go into that second leg knowing what you have to do? What's the mindset?
Do you know, this is really interesting, because I went to the Luton Sunderland second leg playoff the other day and was talking to a few people that work in football, and they do different podcasts, and a couple that work for Sky, and we were talking about the mentality between first and second leg. And it's so hard, that first leg, because you think, I've still got another 90 minutes. So basically, you just need to make sure in the game, you don't have to go all out to win it. But if you do, you could actually lose it, because you end up going 2 or 3 down. And I said that I was lucky to play in 4 playoffs with 4 different teams, and I never once ever won a first leg. But I managed to get to 3 finals, and the only final we should have got was for Sunderland. You go out to that second leg, and it's almost like it's just a normal game. You've got to go and try and win that game. You can't think about the first leg. If you're winning it, you're losing it. You've got to go and try and win that game. And that's as simple as it is. It sounds crazy how simple it is, but that's what you got to do.
Tommy's hit the bar, as I've said, and Sam gets the goal, and then Rory Fallon gets the goal, which appears to be taking you to the final. Now, how are you feeling at this moment? I mean, I can close my eyes now and see Adam Virgo head the ball into the back of the net. How are you feeling in those final few moments when that throw was being taken on the left-hand side? What were your thoughts?
So it's crazy. It's one of those memories that does stick in your head. Like, there's so many memories of football and games, and then trying to piece together years of what game, what club. But again, like you said, I come off right at the end. As you said, it chucked it down my rain. I'm there soaking wet, sit on the bench for Ryan Kingy, take my pads off, absolutely shattered. I look up and see him have a long throw, and then just almost right in front of me in the halfway line, to see Adam Virgo go like that at the back post. And it was like the slow motion, slowest run ever. And from the moment he made the first run, it was almost like, someone pick him up? No. And you could just think, this ball could go anywhere, but for some reason I just know it's landing at him, and it did. And but I still fancied us on pens. I still really did. We practiced in the week. We had some really good penalty takers. You know, every time we got a penalty in the season, there's 5 or 6 of us that, you know, I'll take it. So I really fancied us to go through on the pens, but just wasn't to be.
Started off all right, though, didn't it? I think Sam Parkin got the first. Matt Hayward, of all people, centre half, blasting another one.
Yeah.
And then Tommy Mooney.
Well, Matty was one every week. I'll take penalties this week. No, Matty, you stay back there.
Yeah, fabulous. Tommy Mooney, who I guess he's one of these players you'd put your house on, really, to score a pen. Didn't score a pen.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing with playoffs and games like that. You know, Moon's had a brilliant season, like you said. Banged in over 20 goals, his experience, everything like absolute wonder left foot. You like, he'll just pick his spot and smash it in. And I think when he missed that, it was. And then was it Gurns that missed the last pen? Yeah. And they'd probably be with Sam. with Parkin, probably the three go right. They're three guaranteed goals because they took free kicks, they took penalties, they were set play people. I think probably did all three score penalty in the season at one time.
Yeah.
So again, you go, oh, we'll win this because we've got so many good players on the pitch that can take penalties. So I was as shocked as you guys that were sat watching it on the TV and sat soaking wet in the crowd.
We've spoken to several of the players involved in that, including Matt Hayward, and how they felt and how the dressing room was afterwards. I'm guessing it was a pretty quiet place, was it?
Do you know what? It was for a bit, but in typical Kingy fashion, came in, lit up a cigar, and said, I couldn't be prouder than you boys. Like, you couldn't have done anything else. Penalties is a lottery. You gave me everything for the season. Be proud of what you've done. Use this as fuel. Go away in the summer, work hard, and use this as fuel to, look at them celebrating. That's where we want to be. That's where we should be. So it was great like that. He would always be able to pick you up and get you going again.
So a little story, I went to the Euros in Portugal that year, and the first person I saw down at Porto Harbour was a bloke with a Brighton shirt on.
Oh.
It wasn't great, I must admit. It's like, do you want another kick in the teeth? Here it is.
Yeah.
In terms of the next season then, it didn't quite work out, did it? It wasn't. I mean, I think you got an extension on your contract for another season, didn't you?
Yeah, I triggered it for the games I hit. So it was a 1+1. If I played the amount of games, I got the extension triggered. So that was sorted. And like I said, when I came in, I wasn't one of the top earners. I just wanted to play football. And it was an opportunity to kickstart my career where I think there was other lads, obviously like Moons and other people that were on good contracts where the financial situation of the club, we couldn't afford to keep that whole team together and add to it. So we lost a couple of lads, not only just good footballers, but really important people in the dressing room. And then to have such a tight-knit group that first year, to lose 2 or 3 of the big ones, it's tough to then get going again. And that's when the new players have to really come in and step up, and it just wasn't quite the same.
Yeah, Tommy Mooney, of course, went to that place that we shan't mention, where you went a little later in your career. They play in yellow shirts, but we won't.
Oh, right.
So how was that second season for you? I mean, you played a lot, didn't you? But then towards the end, I think, you picked up an injury.
I'd actually broke my metatarsal. Yeah. And even with that, I wanted to replace Moons because I'd started to score goals. I started to play up front with Sam. I think at the start of the season, if you remember, and I actually then started to score a few goals, but I was never a striker, and that kind of probably when I put the hybrid number 10 started to come in. But we were better with a 4-4-2. I wanted to play centre of the park, but then because I started to chip in with goals, that got moved up front. Then Rory Fallon come in, and then there was a few loans, and then second half of the season, I picked up a broken foot, which wasn't picked up by the medical team, just it's bruising, carry on, play. So I was playing with it, and it just came to the point where I couldn't play. And then it got to the end of the season, and again, it was the point where the money's not here. I'd had a pretty good couple of years. Could have been better the second year, especially the second half of it. But then have 6, 7, 8 clubs phoning saying, we want to take you, we want to do this, and Swindon, unfortunately couldn't do it. So it was time to move on.
How was that parting? Because if I remember rightly, they were saying that they hadn't offered you a contract, but you said they had offered you. I mean, it was all a little bit confusing. And how was it from your point of view?
It's just past is new, time to move on. I can't remember how it went day in, day out, but I knew that I had really good opportunities elsewhere. So I'd made my mind up. It was time. And I think once you make your mind up as a player, you do it. And, I don't want to upset people, but I think I made the right decision.
Fair enough. And you went on to move to Barnsley, which turned out to be a fantastic move for you, didn't it? Simon says, longest drive back from Brighton ever. I think everybody will agree with that. I mean, when you look back on your 2 years at Swindon, I mean, how do you place them in your career? Because we'll go on to how many highlights you've had since then, but where do you put those 2 years? They're your formative years, really, in professional football in a way, aren't they?
The exact word I was trying to think of, my formative years. It was my chance. It was my breakthrough. I'll be forever grateful for Swindon Town as a club, for Andy King for giving me that opportunity. I think every young player you ever speak to, and players that have made it and players that haven't. I never got a chance. As I always say, you do get a chance. It's about taking it. And Andy, God rest that he gave me that chance. It wasn't always easy with him, but he gave me that chance. So forever grateful for him and forever grateful for the club. And I think, when I come back now and I see you guys and see people at the club, it's always so nice to come back, and it's always everyone's so nice. Could I have done better? Yeah, I think so. Did I do okay? Yeah, done okay. But it gave me that opportunity to prepare my career forward, and luckily I went and I had a half decent career.
Yeah, it's interesting when we say that we've got former players on and who it's going to be. Generally the reaction is positive, and I have to say for you it was positive. So many people remember you fondly. It's funny because you were only at the club 2 years, but for me, it didn't seem like 2. It seemed longer. It's an odd trick of the memory, isn't it?
I think because of the timing of it. I think that first year was just such a great team that got put together, and then that next year was when the troubles started. That it seemed like about 3 seasons in one, because that's what it felt like for us at times. So I can imagine that's what it felt like for the fans, and then progressively, obviously, other troubles hit, and there's been some difficult times, but hopefully the new manager coming in, Michael Flynn, know him well from a player that he had on loan that I look after that done particularly well. He's done a fantastic job with him, who's now gone to the Premier League. And
I wonder who that might be.
Yeah, exactly. I thought you'd get that one. And I hope that he can come in and gather the group together, build that strong team unit like we had, and progress next season.
Yeah, pass on our best to Mr. Twine, won't you, when you next speak to him? Because it's great to see him doing well.
Yeah, I certainly will. He's actually just texted me back. I texted him earlier because they were back in training today, their first day, so it went well. So
wow, already?
Yeah.
Goodness me! Wow, there we are. Yeah, he's on the Life of a Kitman podcast, by the way. The two.
He is. Yeah, I spoke to him the other day about that. I saw the Kit guys the other day, and I said they said that Twiny's coming on. And I said, "You spoke to his agent? Yeah, we agreed a deal." But now I haven't had a full listen to it yet. But hopefully that brings him some listeners, and hopefully they can be successful in their future with that side of it.
Well, the fact that they're back in training today, that's knocked me backwards. It's June, for goodness sake. What are you doing? But they're going into the Premier League, so I guess, they're not messing about, are they? No. What about your move to Barnsley then? Because I've always thought Barnsley and Swindon are sort of similar clubs. Is that a fair comparison?
Yeah, and that's why I signed there, to be honest. Like I said, there was a few offers on the table. There was 2 or 3 of the lads, maybe even 4 of the lads I'd played with in the England youth setup that were at Barnsley. I picked the phone up to Rory Fallon because obviously we signed him from there.
Yeah.
And said, "What do you think as a club?" And he said, "Look, fantastic club, very similar. Fans, you work hard for the fans. Fans get behind you, they'll support you. Like real humble club. Just want to see their team win on a Saturday." And all the other boys up there thought the same. Again, it was a real young group. And were we the best team when we got promoted that year? No. But we had the best team spirit, yes. But from the moment I walked in the building for talks and met a few of the guys, it was like, right, this is a team that I can get promoted with and kind of get that Brighton heartache out of me and then go and play at the levels I think I should be playing at.
Well, it certainly worked out for you because you became captain of Barnsley. Great honour for you.
Yeah, I think I changed my mindset a bit. I think I still lived at home when I was down south. I still had all my friends and family around me. And I think I wanted to move up there and go, right, I just need to focus 100% on football, be a leader, be this, be that, demand more from myself and demand more from my team. Because again, I learned from that heartache. I said to the guys that we'd done this at Swindon 2 years ago and we lost out. It was the worst moment of my career. And still a young career at the time. I don't want that again. And then fortunately we went and won the final on penalties this time. But I learned all from those little heartaches, and when Kingy said use that as fuel, I still had that in my belly. And I went there and it was like, I want to get promoted and you guys come with me or I'll go there on my own. And obviously the management and that saw that side of me and thought, you deserve to wear the armband.
Fabulous. I mean, how did you change then from the youngster that was at Southampton to the captain of Barnsley? How did that change? I mean, you obviously learned from the defeat of Brighton. You take those on the chin, you move on. As a person, how did you change?
I'd always captain Southampton youth teams. I'd always captain the reserves. I was lucky enough to captain the England youth team on a couple of occasions. So I always felt I had that in me. It was driven into my dad to be a leader. Don't ever be a follower, be a leader. It was difficult to come in and do that, Swindon, because it was coming into a new dressing room. But I wanted to learn. And like you said, the likes of Tommy Mooney, the likes of Sam Parkin, Sammy Argo, Adi Vivash, Mate Hayward, Mate Hewlett, all these great guys and that have had brilliant careers and all were all leaders. I just took a bit from all of them. I thought in my career, and I take a little bit from all of you, and then, put my own spin on it.
Yeah, Adi Vivash we had on this a couple of weeks back. Of course, he's had a fabulous time with Coventry. Not a fabulous ending, but a fabulous time as assistant to Mark Robins. Swindon through and through. So
yeah, great guy, Adi. To be fair, I had two boys at Luton in that team, and one of them scored, Jordan Clark, and then both of them scored penalties, Luke Berry and Jordan Clark. So I was happy with the result, but I felt for Adi.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we'll talk to him again soon about that at some point.
It's an amazing job they've done there on that budget.
Oh, incredible. Well, it's not just the budget, it's everything else that's gone with it, isn't it?
Yeah, the pitch at the start of the season, changing from ground to ground. Just them guys done an incredible job.
Mark says, listening to you, it appears you're a very driven individual. What motivated you? You've already said that you wanted to play first team football, but there must be something inside you that drives you.
I am the worst loser in the world. I hate losing at anything. If you talk to any of my family, even that, it's just been in me since I was young. And like I said, I was brought up in a big Scottish family, huge family. The Scots are tough guys, and if you ever want to make it, even in the family and out of the family, you've got to stand up and be yourself from a young age. So just always want to be the best, and I live my life like it now. Where I've been at home the last 10 days, I've been reading all different mantras, reading books and positivity to try and then give that back to the players I look after now, and got some great ones. And my business partner joked saying that I'm almost turning into Gandhi with all the quotes I'm coming out with. I think he means more that I can only wear flip flops at the moment, and I've got a tan. But I've come out with some cracking quotes lately. So I just want to get better every day. I think that's the only way you can live your life. The only way you can succeed. You're gonna have knockbacks. You're gonna suffer defeats, but you can't rest on those. Like you said, the Brighton one was the worst moment in my football career at the time. Could I have sulked and cried and thought I'm never going to get there again, or go, I'm going to get there again, but this time I'm going to use that experience to go one step further.
I can't talk about Barnsley without talking FA Cup. And I watched your moment at Liverpool, which I'm sure is pretty much up there. A great performance from Barnsley and that 2-1 FA Cup win. And you should have had a penalty just before you scored, but a left foot shot into the corner of the net, that must be pretty much up there, mustn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I managed to make some brilliant friends up there. And I managed to become really good friends with Dennis Priestley, the darts player. And we always joked, and I said, Dennis, if I score a goal at Anfield, I said, I'll be more famous than you in Barnsley. And there was a national newspaper that come and done the centre page for their football pull-out for that weekend. And it finished off with, if I score a 90th minute winner at the Cop End, I'll be more famous than Dennis Priestley. Now, very much tongue-in-cheek, for that to happen, it was just, incredible. People keep asking me, what was it like? To this day now, I cannot answer. I watch it back now and I look at celebrations and I was like, I cannot remember one thing of that. And sadly, my dad passed away, but he was very much my driver in life and my biggest fan and biggest supporter. For him, as I said, a tough Scotsman, to be in tears at Anfield with my mum, my brother and my uncle, and going over to him after the game, it was just incredible. They tell me stories that they went out out the back of the ground after, went into the booze on the corner, which was a Liverpool bar. Like, who are you? Should you be in here? And he said, well, my son's just scored the goal. And my mum said, why have you said that? And they were like, this is Brian Howard's dad. They whipped him in, getting these guys a drink.
Wow.
But yeah, looked at, so like, not only experiences for me, experiences my family have had. And then obviously, again, someone that I'm good mates with now, and I play charity football with him. Matt Letizia was doing the game. Obviously, he was my hero at Saints growing up, watching him, getting to train and play with him probably the most gifted player I've played with, and that's including training with Gianfranco Zola. He's a guy who's just an incredible talent, but a great guy. For him to be commentating on the game and someone sending me the commentary of it and just all of it, it's just an incredible experience to look at.
You should mention you beaten Chelsea as well in that run, didn't you?
Yeah, they had a pretty average team out, to be fair. They rested a few.
Fair enough.
that was tongue in cheek as well. They didn't. I think Lampard and Peter Cech were the only two, and Drogba were the only three that didn't play. But yeah, John Terry, Carvalho, Essien, Ballack, Joe Cole, Johnny Mikel. Joe Cole he was unbelievable on the day, but it was one of those we just dug in and fought and managed to get through. And we do all the hard work, get to Cardiff in the semis and get beat 1-0.
Very, very disappointing.
And Portsmouth won the cup that year, and I signed at Portsmouth years later. And when I walked in and I signed the contract, I said, "By the way, where's my winners' medal?" And I said, what are you on about? And I said, well, we pretty much won the cup for you that year. So when I'm signing, I deserve a FA Cup winners' medal, right?
Brilliant. Lawrence says, was a good player, mate. Shame you went to the dark side. I think you know which one he refers to.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that a bit later as we go through. So I'll talk about that.
Yeah. Barnsley was a bit of a strange one when you left there, wasn't it? Because I think they valued it at 10 million. Is that right? Yeah. And you weren't too happy with that valuation. I think it's fair to say you'd been Player of the Year for the Tykes 2006-2007 season, captain, etc. 10 million, though, a little bit overpriced, or you?
If someone paid it, I'd have been well happy with it. But I remember. I think I was in LA on holiday with some friends, and with the 8-hour time change, my phone had been going off from 5 a.m. over there right the way through. I remember waking up about 8 a.m. their time, all these missed calls and picking it up and saying, "No, it was all different papers, national newspapers, someone from Sky, blah blah blah." And my mates are going, "We're on holiday. What's this?" And I was like, "I don't really know." I phoned my agent, and he was like, "Yeah, that the owners come out and said if so and so's gone for 2 million, Brian Howard's worth 10 because Barnsley at the time was streets ahead because of the data and that what I was on about. So my data was much better than them, but because the other guy had a bigger name than mine, he went for 2 million. But I said, Brian Howard's better, he should be worth 10. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. Like I said, sign for free, be promoted first year, FA Cup semi-final, kept you up. I've only got a year left on my contract. 5 other players have got new contracts. You've not even spoke to me about a new one. And they said, we'll offer you this. We'll offer you a new contract, but only if you'll sign. I said, well, how do I know if I sign it until you tell me what it is? And it was a crazy, crazy situation. And in the end, the clubs that were coming in, I said, I just need to go. I just need to go to further my career. I've been treated pretty poorly. I said I was your club captain at the time. I know what other people have come in and earned contract-wise. I've only got a year left. If I break my leg next week, what happens? I'm out of contract in the summer. I've just been voted in PFA Championship Team of the Year, which was probably my biggest achievement in my career because your fellow pros. I was like, I deserve a chance to go and play at the next level. And they would only do it to certain clubs. But again, I've ironed it all out with the guys at Barnsley. We're all good. It was a very difficult time and very, very badly managed by all parties.
It must be difficult. I mean, you mentioned agents a lot, and we'll get to your job at the minute shortly. But I guess you learned a lot during that time, didn't you? Which went on to where you are now, I guess.
Absolutely. Again, whoever asked the question earlier, sorry, I didn't get the name, but they said about always, I want to be driven. I would never ever. It wasn't a trust thing. I just want to be involved in everything. So I would always be curious. I'd always want to learn. I always want to know what's going on. So every contract negotiation I want to be involved in, just to understand it, to learn, just for further stuff and further in my career. Then I help younger players that I played with because of that, and then obviously gone into what I do now.
Yeah, you're at Sheffield United, Reading, Pompey, as you've mentioned. Reading was the FA Cup's played a big part in your life, hasn't it? Really, you kind of 1 or 2 really decent cup runs in your career.
Yeah, I think we're quarterfinals twice at Reading. So we went to what did we lose? Semi-final we lost at Wembley, Barnsley. Following year, go Sheffield United, go playoff final, get beat by Burnley again. When you talk about the Swindon team that should have gone up, that team should have gone up. That Sheffield United team. If anyone ever Googles that squad that year, I don't think there's ever been a better squad in the Championship. It's absolutely frightening. You talk about the likes of James Beattie, Gary Speed, Ugo Ekiog, it was like Danny Webber, Darius Henderson, Sunji High. We had international, Carl Walker, Carl Norton. We had internationals that couldn't even get on near the bench, wouldn't even travel on a match day squad. And this is the Championship. And yeah, we really should have gone up that year. So that was disappointing. Similar one, parachute payments run out, had to finance certain deals. I was lucky that I'd scored for Sheffield United away at Reading in the running in a 1-0 win. And Brendan Rodgers, who was going to get the Reading job, was there at Reading watching the game. So he spoke to my agent after and said, if things don't work out for Sheffield United, I'd like to bring him to Reading. It was an opportunity for me to get back down south, and just worked well to come back down.
Bristol City, which we'll gloss over clearly. Pompey, you've already mentioned. But it's an interesting one. CSKA Sofia. Now, Bulgaria, I guess it's not the ideal. Well, the first place you think of that an English professional footballer goes. So how did that come about?
So if we rewind it back to kind of the Portsmouth one, this is when the hip started to have the problems. So I was meant to sign a 3-year deal there. The administration kicked in, had to be month to month. I then had a hernia on my right side, which was caused because my hip was starting to fall away, basically. And then in that summer, there was clubs looking at it. People were worried about fitness. Obviously, I went to Bristol City really short term. Sorry, because again, it was the only place I could sign because of the hernia. And then we were looking at English clubs and said, well, my hip's getting worse. I think I need to go play a slower tempo football. Let's look at some options abroad. I had an option in America, option in Australia, and then an English investor put some money into Sofia. So they were signing Mamasidovi from Stoke, from England, Martin Petrov, taking him back to his boyhood club. I'm going to have a real good go at it. Thought, go and play in Europe, qualify for European football, experience a new life. Sofia, went over there. Sofia was a beautiful city, amazing place to live. Football was good, really great. My biggest worry was what happens if you don't get paid? And then 2 months into it, money starts not getting paid. Lived in an apartment that was meant to be paid by the club. Bulgarians heavies knocking the door. Where's my rent? No, I'm not paying for it. There's like, yes, you are. So it just became a real big issue. And I knew that I had interest from Birmingham to go back to the Championship in the January. So I had to play the game and just pretty much write my money off to get my license back, because they said, you've got a year's contract plus an option. We'll just keep your license. You won't play for 18 months. You have to go a 6-month legal battle with FIFA to get any money. If you leave the country, then you void it. So yeah, I'd have to pay my own rent to live there on my own. And it was just farcical, to be fair. So that's why I'm very dubious about lads going abroad now.
Goodness me. I mean, the word finance has played a lot of part in your career, hasn't it? I mean, you've been at clubs that have known the downs of football finance. And I'm guessing that's another string to your agent's bow, because you kind of know that not all clubs have this huge amount of money to spend on players, do they? And
yeah,
let's quickly gloss over those teams in yellow. Birmingham, you knew Paul Caddis was there, of course.
Yeah.
At the same time as you. And then you signed for that team in yellow. What on earth for?
Again, I actually had a real problem having my medical at Birmingham to sign there. So I'd gone through all of that at Sofia to sign for Birmingham. But Lee Clark, the manager, really wanted to get it done the medical, and they found an issue with the hip. And they said it could go at any time. So he can't sign a longer term contract. But Clarkey wanted to get it done. I wanted to play for Birmingham, huge club, great people there. And I said, right, if I'll sign a certain contract, obviously I won't go into it, but if anything bad happen, then the club's a winner and I lose everything, but I'm willing to take that gamble. So I signed it to play there. Made my debut, done okay, scored in my next game against Derby, but broke my foot. So it wasn't the hip, I actually broke my foot. And then that was pretty much me done for the season. I then came back, and played in a 21s game to get fitness, got smashed, done my ankle. And it's kind of a bit, I'm 31, kind of 32, my body's starting to give way here. I need to kind of look at things. I had my house down here where I live, kind of looked at where I could go. I had an opportunity to go back to Barnsley, didn't feel it was right. Michael Appleton, who was my manager at Portsmouth, was in at Oxford, and said, look, come and come here. It's an hour up the road. Just come and be part of the dressing room, be a leader. Not expecting lots from you, but just I want you to be kind of my leader in the dressing room. And again, it was the first time I'd ever played in League Two, and I'd gone from playing in the Championship from the previous whatever years or abroad, and I hated every minute of it. Hated every minute of it. Playing in the number 10, getting the ball smashed over my head. I wasn't fit enough because my hips weren't right, so I didn't do myself any favours. And I think we went away to Hartlepool or Tranmere or somewhere in the cup, and Happy left me out to rest me and play the young kids, didn't put me on. And so why have you brought me all the way up here on a Tuesday night, getting home at 4 a.m? Now I've got to drive home an hour, come back. And he said, your heart's not in anymore. I said, no, it's not. I said, let's just cancel the contract. That's me done.
Well, we won't hold it against you, that yellow shirt. We'll leave it alone. Anthony says, do you go into the bar in the basement of the Sheraton Hotel in Sofia? Lots of, how can we put this, groups of, well, he says the mafia. I've no idea whether there is or not.
Yeah, did he see the signs where it's like no smoking, no dogs, no something else, and then no guns? You're like, oh, okay, I can't bring my gun in here now. And all the mafia in there smoking. There were some interesting places for sure. I lived in the American and English district where all the expats lived and all the embassies were. So it was quite a cool place to live. And I think it was the Kempinski Hotel. They had like 7 restaurants and bars. But we had different training regimes over there. You used to train in the evening because of the weather. So we used to finish training. We'd all go to Kempinski because it was 2 hours ahead to watch the Champions League and have dinner together. I got quite friendly with Mama Sidibe from his Stoke days, and there was a French group of lads there, so I'd go to dinner with the French lads. And I learnt loads. The Italian fitness coach was fantastic. Changed my whole diet, my whole outlook on everything. I was like, I'm 31 now. Why couldn't I met you at 21? I can learn him from stuff like that. Fantastic experience. I never ever think anything's a bad move. It's always a learning curve.
Yeah. Now you're moving to becoming an agent. Then how did that happen? Obviously, you need something when you do pack up football. You need to. This is a strange thing about football career, isn't it? You finish. I think you said you were 33 when you finished. So how did you move?
33. So when I left Oxford, my hometown's Eastleigh. I grew up in Eastleigh, and they were having a bit of a go at it at the time, spending a bit of money. A few players. My ex-teammate from Barnsley, Paul Reed, got in there. And he said, the gaffer's been on the phone, seeing you leaving Oxford. It's your hometown club. We only train 3 days a week. Come down and it'll give you a really good contract. It'll be great because then the fans buy into it as well. Just kind of one of those. And we can get promoted. And I thought, do you know what, way to finish? Get my hometown club promoted to the National League. To the Football League. So I went in there and again got beat in the playoffs. And I came off that pitch, the playoffs, and I said, that is me. Done 100%, but I'd already made my mind up before because we only trained 3 days a week. I was like, right, I'd done a bit of punditry work, been offered stuff for coaching, but that ended the career moving small contracts, club to club to club. I thought that's what it'd be like as a manager and a coach. You're here for 1 minute, you're then gone. I was like, I want to finally get control back in my life, and I was always really interested in the contract stuff. I thought I'm going to do the agency stuff. So when I was training at EC 3 days a week, training grounds right opposite the Airport Parkway, the Airport Parkway station. I was finishing training, jumping on the train to London, jumping on the flights up to Manchester, just going to games all around the country. I probably watched more games than I played games in that last year of my career. And I thought I was going to get a head start on my next bit of life.
Do you have to get a license, don't you? You have to be a licensed agent.
So it's coming back in. You never, when I first started, you didn't. You just had to pay to get your license, pass your fit and proper person tests, CRB checks, and you become an agent. FIFA are trying to make themselves look better now and clean up football. So they're saying it's agents' faults and not FIFA. So now they're saying in October, new rules come in. You have to pass the exam to be a licensed agent. There's all different arguments. There's the general argument. I could say I've been an agent for 6 years now. I've built a company up with really successful players. So if I don't pass my license, you're taking away my whole livelihood. But I think I'm going to do the exam in September. Hopefully I'll pass. I should do. I've got enough experience the last 6 years. Lucky my business partner, he has it from previously, so we're pretty protected with that. But I think it'll be good in the long run for the game.
How do you approach it then? Because, you know, most fans would think, well, the agent gets as much money as possible for his client and also as much money as possible for himself, you know, which is, you know, it's your business, isn't it, for goodness sake? But do you kind of also look at it from the club's perspective too? Because as we've discussed, you know, the financial problems that some clubs have been through. So how do you square that circle, if you will?
You've got to build the relationship with the clubs. I mean, I'm really lucky that obviously I played for that amount of time and at all those different clubs. So loads of my teammates now are the managers, are the head of recruitments, are the coaches, are the scouts. So I've got those relationships with these guys, and I'll say to them, and I've had to say to a few over the last couple of years, I told you so. I'm not just trying to do it to make money. I'm trying to help you as well. Take this player. Trust me, in the next 2 years, you'll sell him for a lot of money. They'll keep your club going. You'll improve. And now I'm getting that now. Yeah, I said today, it's been a crazy day today. People phoning the phone off. Now people are coming to me, phoning me. Right, what have you got for me? You need to give me the next Scott Twine. You know, the next whoever. You know, and we had 3 lads promoted to the Premier League that have all played National League and below. We've got loads of lads in the Championship, and I've got international footballers that have played at lower levels. I see in them where they should go, and I ask them why you're not at that level. So what I bring to them is, I'm going to help you get there, but this is what you need to do. So as well as it's the agent, it's the mental side, and it's like, look, I've been there, I've made these mistakes, I've done this wrong, I've done that right, I've done this wrong, I've done that right. I still make mistakes now, I still want to learn. But you know, I've got proof in the pudding now that if you look for our client list, 90% have gone from there to there. I was watching TV last night, and one of my players that I took from Portsmouth to Belgium missed out on winning the Belgian top league to go to the Champions League. In the 89th minute, they let in a goal that cost them the league. But I was privileged enough, they qualified for the quarterfinals of the Europa League this year, and I was invited by the club, and I was in the director's box. The club's owned by Tony Bloom, who owns Brighton. Sat and had dinner with them, glass of wine, sat on the halfway line in the comfy seats, watching Europa League quarterfinals. My player playing that, you know, was at Portsmouth. Look, he's done the hard graft on the pitch. He's done that to get there. But if I've added 1% to his career, if I had said to him 4 years ago, not the client, you're at Portsmouth in League One, but one day you're going to be playing in the quarterfinals Europa League against Bayer Leverkusen, he'd have been like, what? So that's my thing from it. Yes, there's a money side. There's a business. We all got bills to pay. We all want a nice life. And I said it to a prospective new client this morning. What I say to my players is, do not focus on the money. If you focus on the money, you'll fail. It's short term. It's short sightedness. There is money in football now. It's not like when I started. You know, you do well in football, you get well rewarded. So it's a byproduct, and it's like any business. You be successful at what you do. The byproduct is you get paid well, and that's the way I look at it. If I do a really good job for my clients and I get them from E to A, then I'll be rewarded as I hope I will. But my beauty of it is, I mentioned Tiny again because seeing him promoted to the Premier League, seeing the boys at Luton promoted to the Premier League, seeing boys playing the quarterfinals of Europe, that's where I get my buzz. That's my driver. The rest of it's just nice things that pay your bills. But the happiness is seeing the boys. I just love football. We started off the conversation just been football daft from the moment I could walk and kick a ball, and that's my pleasure in life. So the other agents, of course, there's business sides of it. They're big corporation companies, money, assets, blah blah blah. This is why I want to become an agent, because I don't like that side of it. I've heard people call players accounts. I was like, well, I was a player, so was I just an account? And I was like, well, it's not an account, it's a human being that's in the 0.3% of the population that's got a chance of making it a professional footballer. I wanted to help him live his dream.
Because the most important thing, and sometimes I think people forget this, the most important thing is that sort of green bit with that spherical object on it, isn't it? I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? And people sometimes forget that. They talk about the money, but most people get into this game, as you do, because they love playing with that spherical thing and kicking it around.
You're exactly right. And I say to my young players now, I said, why do you want to be a footballer? And I say, lots of different reasons. I get lots of different answers. It's not, there's no right or wrong. It's each personal. And I go, right, okay, well, that's how I'll manage your career for how you want it. For me, I never once thought about growing up going, I want to have a nice car. I want to have a house here. And I want all these designer clothes. I was like, I want to be the best player on the pitch. I want to be scoring the winning goal and have thousands of fans singing my name in those emotions. And I've recently said it to a few boys while negotiating contracts. And I said, go to a club where you achieve something. And I said, trust me, for someone who's been retired now for 7 years, money can buy you anything you want. That doesn't matter. No one can ever take away those memories of promotions, playoffs, so whether it's the heartbreak, whether it's the success of going up and being in that with your teammates you've battled for 46 games plus playoffs or whatever, from pre-season, running in the boiling hot, being sick, sweating, to like achieving something. Like, no money can ever buy that. Like me sat talking to you now, like, it doesn't matter what contracts have been worth. It's about the memories of being on the football pitch, and that's all that ever matters. And I'm just football mad and just love it. And I can, put a bit of a rant now. I could just talk all day about it.
Well, it's been delightful to talk to you. I mean, lots of people have been in touch. And did you ever play at Feetham, says Ian? Did you ever play at Darlington at all? Do you remember that?
Don't think so.
No, fair enough. Lots of what we'll do is we'll send the comments on to you so that you'll realise that you're very fondly remembered, if that's
Thank
okay.
you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
It's been amazing to talk to you, because I think the thing is that comes across, you had 2 years at Swindon, which many people will remember. And as I said to you, it seemed as though it was longer. Mm-hmm. But you were back for Caddy's thing the other day. And it was lovely to see you back at the county ground. I won't say whether you played or not in case your doctor's listening. But
well, I would say I played. I was useless for about 10 minutes and then thought, nah, I need to get off.
But how was that, going back and getting on that grass at the county ground?
Yeah, loved it. I'd done it, was it 2 years previously when Richie and Noel were there? But it was just after COVID. And we played a game there, and Giral, Sam Parkin, and we played a game there, and that was great. Loved being back there, loved playing with them boys. To be fair, Sam Parkin texted me the day after the Caddies won saying, I was really sorry I couldn't get there, how was the game? And I explained why I could only play a bit. And as all the lads have been speaking, we've got a group chat now, so we're going to try and arrange a proper one next year and really have a go at getting a load of the boys back.
That's fabulous.
Which would be great, because the boys love it. I'm lucky enough to play in a few of the X Games for a few different clubs I play for, and it's just so nice to see the fans again. It's brilliant seeing the old lads and all getting back, talking about the good old days. Get out there, and it's nice to, now that you're not professional, you can have a beer together after. And Sam was texting me saying, definitely want to play it again. It'd be nice to link up with you again, get that hit right, and we'll do it next year. So, hopefully, if people are listening to this and we start ramping it up, obviously, it's a big season next year. Maybe at the end of next season, we'll get a decent game at the county ground, and whether it'll be for Caddy again or whatever charities are involved, that's always a great thing as well. That none of us take anything from it. It's about giving something back to all the support that you guys have given us over the years, and if we can raise some money for good causes, it's even better.
Well, Brian, thank you ever so much for your time. As you've said, you've been really busy all day, so we really appreciate it. And I think we've learned a lot today about both sides of football, the downs and the ups, and that's really what these interviews are all about, to find out what the ups are and what the downs are. And we as fans go through those, and you as players do too. So we really appreciate your time, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely, I echo what Vic said. Absolutely fantastic, Brian. Thank you very, very much. Okay, everybody. That's all for tonight. We will be back next Monday. Not sure what it will be yet, but it'll be on socials when we do. So until then, have a good week. Take care, and we'll see you soon.